So it's good to see everyone today. I want to say that this will be our last Jews and the News for a while. Take a break for the summer. Next Monday, I have a scholar in residence program for the Washington Board of Rabbis at Addis, Israel, which is from 9:30 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. So I'm not going to be able to do Jews and the News next week. That one is with Shai Held, who is the president of Hadar and just wrote a book about God is love. So it's supposed to be a very good book, and I'm looking forward to that next. And then the following Monday is Memorial Day. So anyway. I also want to say, and I'm not tooting my horn here, it's just for who knew about things like this before COVID. People did know about things like this before COVID, but I didn't because I wasn't so much involved in this. But with all these recordings now and how they are, I save my recordings to my YouTube channel. Not only do I have more than 100 subscribers to my YouTube channel, which I don't know what that means, but I think over 100 you can do certain things on a channel that you couldn't do if you had less than 100. And also, last week's Jews and the News garnered the most views of any one of my videos over the course of the years that I've been posting videos to my YouTube channel. A whopping, this is for me, whopping 647 views, which is absurd. And I know just how, as Saul was saying to me the other day, I know how Google works and YouTube searches work, whatever the algorithm is, since the title was Jews in the News, college campus protests. So if anybody was Googling college campus protests, then maybe, and they're looking for a podcast or something, then my video might have come up. So whatever it was, 647 views. It doesn't mean that 647 people watched the entire video. They could have watched a minute. They could have watched 10 minutes of it. Who knows? And also some people wrote comments, which I've since removed, which some of them were pretty, I wouldn't say that they were bad, but they weren't threatening. Just saying, we don't need this Zionist drivel or something like that. Whatever. So anyway, I'm not sure how many views this video will get after I post it, but I wanted to share today because today is Yom HaZikaron. It's Israel's Memorial Day, and I just sent out an email to the congregation about how Israel's Memorial Day leads right into Israel's Independence Day. An interesting way to do that as opposed to how we do it in America. You have to wait from the last Monday before the last Tuesday in May until July 4th to have that kind of combination. So it's very moving in Israel, and sometimes they read off the names of all those who have died in fighting for the protecting Israel's survival. And this is not just soldiers, but also those who were killed in terrorist attacks over the years. So Israel's about to celebrate its 76th birthday. Usually you say to a person, bis 120, I think we have to say something else in Yiddish, may Israel be alive for eternity. I wanted to share President Isaac Herzog's speech, which I found to be very moving, that he gave last night at the ceremony that started Yom HaZikaron. So let me share my screen. This was from the Jewish News Syndicate. That's where I found it. For some reason, it's not available yet on the official Israeli government website. It will be, but it hasn't shown up yet. I thought it was, and I went to it, and then I realized, no, this was what I was reading from was 2023. So the 2024, what he said last night is here on the Jewish News Syndicate. So I guess it's on here, and it's not officially from the Israeli government yet because the translation hasn't been fully redacted and approved by the president's house in Israel. So this is President Isaac Herzog. Just remember about him that his father is a past president of Israel as well, Chaim Herzog, and his grandfather was a chief rabbi of Ireland. So he has some kind of yichus, as you would say, lineage, and so he's kind of one of these families from the history of Israel and the history of the Zionist movement, and his brother, President Herzog's brother, is the current Israeli ambassador to the United States. So this is what he said. Every year after the sounding of the shofar, there reigns here in the expanse of the Western Wall Plaza a sacred special silence preserved only for this moment of the year. But tonight we have no peace and there is no silence because this year is not like any other year. This year, in addition to the morning siren that commemorates our fallen since the beginning of our struggle. That's a siren, by the way, that was today in Israel, usually at 10 o'clock in the morning, sirens go off. I've experienced this, I remember experiencing it twice in my life when I was there for my junior year at Hebrew University, and also when I was there for my year in rabbinical school, 3 years apart. 10 o'clock in the morning in the middle of class, siren goes off. The lecturer stops immediately, mid-word. Everybody stops writing, stands up, and listens to the siren. And you might see videos of this. Traffic stops. On the busiest of highways and expressways in Israel, siren goes off, traffic stops. The people don't even pull over. They just stop and get out of their car and stand with the door open next to their car. Unbelievable experience to be part of it, to understand, what it means. So this year, in addition to the morning siren that commemorates our fallen since the beginning of our struggle, a new, prolonged, continuous siren has been added. A siren that began at 6:29 in the morning of the terrible national disaster on October 7th, at the height of the joyous holiday of Simchat Torah, and has continued alongside us ever since. A cry, sharp, piercing, the cry of a nation, the cry of national mourning. My God, my soul laments. Cry out, daughter of Israel, eulogize and weep bitterly. Israel has been devoured by fire. I stand here next to the remnants of our temple in torn garments. This tearing, a symbol of Jewish mourning. It's a symbol of the mourning and sorrow of an entire people in this year, a year of national mourning, a symbol of blood-drenched rend, a symbol of a blood-drenched rend in the heart of the people. A tear in the heart of the state of Israel, shattered, bereaved, crying, bitter tears, refusing to be comforted for its sons and daughters, soldiers and civilians, civilians and soldiers. Our voices do not refrain from weeping, and our eyes from shedding tears. A great tragedy has befallen us. So I just have to say, for the president of Israel, it's a ceremonial role. He's elected to office. The president of Israel is elected by the 120 members of Knesset. And so each party puts up a candidate when the term of the president comes due. And hopefully one wins a majority over others. And Herzog was the accepted candidate however many years ago that he was elected, a couple of years ago. So it's a 6-year term, and he could be reelected. And so ceremonial, and sometimes there's a political role to it. Sometimes the president of Israel will work in diplomatic uh, functions. I mean, he's been working tirelessly to help speak to world leaders and others about what's going on with the war with Hamas. So it depends. And mainly the president of Israel is called on to speak. So this speech in which he's quoting the Bible and the Siddur is really remarkable, and it never fails to move me, in that the president of Israel is I mean, first of all, that there is a country of Israel that is run by Jews, that is the Jewish state, and that the president is speaking in Hebrew and quoting Bible and Siddur. It just continues to be remarkable, even though Israel's been around for 76 years. But you just remember how unique that is in the annals of Jewish history. How long in our 3,500 years of Jewish history were we autonomous in our land? So you had from King Saul to the exile to Babylonia. So that was what, 500 years? Okay, those 500 years. You had 100 years or so from Hanukkah until the Romans came. There's the Hasmonean dynasty of about 100 years, and then that was it until 1948. So it just we all know that history, but to just say it out loud, just to know. And then for the president of Israel to speak so beautifully and movingly like this is just added weight and eloquence to this speech. I turn from here in this holy moment to our brothers and sisters held hostage and to their families throughout these national days. We never forget that there's no greater commandment than redeeming captives. Okay, so he's talking, his father, he's a grandson of a chief rabbi, and he's mentioning the important mitzvah of pidyon shvuyim, of redemption of captives, and this is an important mitzvah. So I wear this necklace around my neck to remind us of the hostages in Gaza. On Shabbat, I wear a pin that says Free Evan, for Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter, Jewish, who has been in prison in Russia for 14 months now on false charges. So it's our obligation as Jews to redeem our fellow Jews from captivity. The entire nation is with you. We must summon courage and choose life, not to rest and not to be quiet until they all return home. Beloved and dear families, those wounded in Israel's battles against its enemies, the defense minister, the chief of staff of the IDF, and the heads of the security forces, ministers and Knesset members, former president of Israel, rabbis, mayor of Jerusalem, ambassadors and diplomats, heads of the representative organizations of the bereaved families, citizens of Israel. A year ago, I spoke here about Section 9 of Area A in the Mount Herzl National Cemetery, Israel's Arlington National Cemetery, the equivalent. Right? If you've been to Arlington, very moving to go there, the National Military Cemetery of America. So Mount Herzl, Har Herzl, that's Israel's equivalent. And at Har Herzl is also a museum dedicated to the life of Theodor Herzl. There is this, Herzl's tomb is there. His grave, not his tomb, his grave is there. Other political, Golda Meir, and soldiers are there. And further down Har Herzl, the same road that leads you to Har Herzl leads you to Yad Vashem. So another part of the same mountain. So a year ago, I spoke here about Section 9 of Area A in the Mount Herzl National Cemetery, the section of fallen from the War of Independence. Since then, between last Memorial Day, right, last year was the 75th anniversary of Israel. So since then, between last Memorial Day and this Memorial Day, the graves on the mountain have increased, 130 new graves, and hundreds more graves have been added throughout the country. There are military cemeteries across Israel. Har Herzl, how to get buried at Har Herzl, Mount Herzl, as opposed to the other ones, I'm not sure the process. It's also very difficult to get buried at Arlington National Cemetery, as opposed to other military cemeteries across the country. So 130 new graves, and hundreds more graves have been added throughout the country, changing its face, our face. The pain strikes with force. Just a few hours ago, we brought 5 of our beloved to their eternal rest, from Dan to Beersheba, from Gilgal to the sea. No spot of our land has been atoned for without blood. A few nights ago, and that's another quote from the Bible. A few nights ago, I ascended once again to Mount Herzl. I found myself walking among the graves in grateful recognition and sacred awe. I felt with unusual intensity the intergenerational connection among the resting places, a connection of longing and heroism, of pain and resilience, a connection of a fighting spirit from generation to generation, a connection between the fallen of the Yom Kippur War, in Lebanon and Metula, on Ammunition Hill, in Sinai and the Golan Heights, in Beaufort, in Bint Jebel, in the many battlefields, in intelligence and combat operations, and in the victims of terror since the dawn of Zionism, and from there to the new and numerous graves on Mount Herzl, which have been added to and unfortunately continue to be added to in sections, yes, many sections of this heavy, heavy campaign. Believe me, my sisters and brothers, I would with all my heart like to tell about each and every one of our fallen loved ones, from all of Israel's wars, from all the security forces from all over the country, about their goodness, their beauty, their bravery. But the fracture is so great, and our losses are too many indeed. And so I stand here in my mind's eye what a grieving father said to me a few weeks ago. I hear they're talking about one of the fallen sons, and I feel as if they're talking about my son. That's what he said. Therefore, in my words tonight, I, in humble supplication, ask to return with you to that same nighttime visit to Mount Herzl, to kindle candles of remembrance, and to tell a few stories, a few of some of this year's fallen. Each one of them represents in some way the eternal figure of all the fallen of Israel's wars and hostile actions against us. Each one of them a mirror of thousands of stories. We will remember and love and cherish in our hearts all of them, all of them. My soldiers are there, and I need to be there, Brigade Commander Colonel Yehonatan Steinberg said to his wife on the morning of October 7th. Yoni, the commander of the Nachal Brigade, encountered terrorists on his way south. He was killed fighting courageously and was buried in the new section on Mount Herzl. The greatest thing one can do is to protect the people of Israel. Yoni left recorded words for his son. Right next to him, I see the grave of Colonel Roe Levy, 44, commander of the multi-dimensional unit. I have no idea what that is. Roe, who was seriously injured in Operation Protective Edge in 2014, recovered, returned to combat, and even got engaged on Israel's 70th Independence Day. On that Black Saturday morning, he, like Yoni, left from his home and headed to Kibbutz Re'im. He fought against the enemy until he was shot and killed. Yoni and Roe are examples of commanders leading from the front like pillars of fire before the camp, a reference to the people of Israel marching through the desert from Egypt to Israel, pillar of fire by night and a pillar of smoke by day. When I saw their graves side by side, I could not help but think of so many heroic commanders we lost in Israel's wars, commanders who stormed the front lines and paid the terrible price. And there, not far from them, lies the grave of Eitan Haddad, a member of the pre-military academy from Kibbutz Be'eri, where he grew up and lived. He is now also buried on the mountain. I stand there in the darkness of the night, in the heart of the mountain, and reflect with astonishment on the long hours of heroic battles in all the towns and communities of the western Negev. Incredible civilian heroism, about all the members of the pre-military academies, about the commanders, lieutenants, and ordinary citizens who leaped into the heart of battle with real courage and fought, sometimes alone, on the front line until the last bullet. Hundreds fell on October 7th and throughout the entire campaign. And in the spirit of the prayer Unatana Tokef, recited on Yom Kippur, also on Rosh Hashanah, a few days before the terrible disaster, we gather on this Memorial Day to remember all the victims and fallen, civilian and soldiers who perished, some by fire and some by suffocation. That's that list. Rosh Hashanah Yikatevun, Yom Tzom Kippur Yechatemun, Mi ba'esh, mi b'mayim, right? The list. On Rosh Hashanah it is written. On Yom Kippur it is sealed. Who by fire, who by water, etc. Right? Leonard Cohen had a version of that. Some by fire, some by suffocation, some by sword, some by beast, some at the doorstep of their home, and some in armored personnel carriers, some in the warmth of their bed, and some in the streets, some at a guard post, and some on the battlefield, some at a bus stop, and some at a police station, some in a car, and some in an armored vehicle, some on the kibbutz pathways, some in the pasture, and some at a party, some in the shopping malls, some by missiles and rockets, some in tunnels, some in hiding. Forever, forever, we remember them. Generations dreamed of reaching Jerusalem. We have the honor of defending it, said Bella Levin a year ago, a combatant from the border police and a lone soldier. On that black Saturday morning, Bella participated in defending Kibbutz Sa'ad. A month later, she fell when fighting a terrorist in the old city of Jerusalem. The police section of the Mount Herzog Cemetery, where Bella is buried, is a section of courage, dedication, and heroism, the essence of the Israeli police force, both men and women. I see Bella's grave and remember all those brave women, soldiers and police officers, observers, fighters, and commanders, the heroines of Israel who sacrificed themselves, stood guard, saved lives, and paid with their lives. And like Bella in the heroism section of our mount, there are so many immigrants from the diaspora and so many lone soldiers, heroes who embarked on a journey from their homeland to the homeland and took part in the great campaign to fulfill the aspirations of the generations for the redemption of Israel. And now they are buried among the hills and the sacred ground of Mount Herzl and throughout the country. The loved ones have carried us with words, and now grief carries us and breathes a spirit of battle on the front line and beyond. For example, among the fallen heroes are Golani Brigade Lieutenant Colonel Tomer Greenberg, a native of Kfar Saba and a man of the Jordan Valley communities, whose grave I see on Mount Herzl, and Armored Corps Lieutenant Colonel Salman Habaka, buried near his home in the Druze village of Yanu Jat. On October 7th, both of them, Salman and Tomer, fought bravely in the kibbutzim, Tomer in Kfar Aza and Nachal Oz, and Salman in Be'eri. Both fell in battles in the Gaza Strip. This is Salman. I'm here. Can I help you evacuate urgently? Salman's voice was heard moments before he fell. Cover me with fire, Tomer requested from him. This grief is a covenant, an Israeli covenant. A covenant that transcends faiths and religions, perceptions and ideologies. I cry out here the cry of the Druze and Bedouin bereaved families who demanded from me and demand from all of us to recognize the right and the privilege to be part of the Israeli story, equal among equals in the fullest sense of the word. Every name is a shattered world. Every name is a sacrifice, a void that will never be filled. Here is the grave of Lavi Lifshitz from Modi'in, who did not want, in his words, to be an animal of war. And not far from him on the same mountain of memory is the grave of Oriah Ayimalk Goshen, born into a dedicated Zionist family that immigrated from Ethiopia, and Ro'i Da'ui of Jerusalem, who enlisted in Givati following Liel Gidoni, who fell in Operation Protective Edge and is also buried on Mount Herzl. The three of them, Ro'i, Oriah, and Liel, and so many other fallen, worldly heroes with smiles of angels, left behind final words, including one directive to smile, just smile. There are moments there in the new plots where one's breath is taken away and one's heart is shattered to pieces. Grave next to grave, Noam and Yishai Slutsky. On October 7th, the Slutsky brothers left their wives and children, and although no one ordered them, hurried to come and fight in Kibbutz Alumim. Together they stormed and killed dozens of terrorists. Together they fell in battle. The beautiful and the pleasant in their lives and in their deaths is that they were not separated. I see their graves and think of so many families that have lost more than one loved one, of worlds that have been destroyed again and again. And the letters of the verse float in the air on Mount Herzl and throughout the land. Why should you also be cut off, both of you, in one day? If I could stand here tonight, I think that's from Jacob talking to his sons about whether they should go down to Egypt to get food after one was held back by Joseph. If I could stand here tonight and tell the story of each and every one of our fallen, this year and over the years, I would, and reluctantly in pain, I would speak of their portion, because behind every story and every candle burn immense flames of heroism, strength, life, and much more. Citizens of Israel, at this sacred moment, I remind us and the entire world, we never wanted or chose this terrible war, neither this one nor its predecessors. All we wanted was return to Zion, from which we were forcibly expelled, and to renew our freedom there in a Jewish and democratic state, to build a life here, a future, a hope. We always dreamed of peace and good neighborliness with all the peoples and countries in the region, and no less than that forever. But as long as our enemies seek to destroy us, we will not lay down our sword. The past few months have been very painful, but during them, we learned about the strength of a wonderful and awe-inspiring people who rose from the terrible destruction and fought as lions. We discovered fighters of the IDF and the security forces, aged 18 to 96, in all branches, on all fronts, in the south, in the north, in Judea and Samaria, and in every place. They who endanger themselves for us ask simply at all times that we remember that we are one people, that we be worthy, only be worthy. This tear in the fabric, the bleeding rend that we all feel in our hearts, this year cannot remain meaningless. The bereaved families tell me this again and again. The tear in the heart of the people must heal the tear in the nation. This rend is also a call and a cry, a call to action, a call to rise up as one people. From here, I pray for the swift and full recovery of all the wounded in body and soul. We must support them and their families in the difficult and painful battles for rehabilitation and in treating their wounds, physical and psychological. I offer strength and embrace on behalf of all of us, the women and men of the IDF, soldiers and reservists who left everything behind and went to the front lines for long months. I offer strength and embrace on behalf of all of us, the police, the border police, the Israel Security Agency, the Mossad, the prison service, the intelligence units, and all the security forces and internal security, the firefighters, the emergency and rescue services. I thank them and their families who sacrificed so much for the sake of the country. The right to defend the security of Israel, the right to serve in the IDF is a tremendous right. It is not a privilege. It is a right a tremendous one, a sacred right. May the Lord keep them from harm now and forever. Bereaved families, beloved and dear, on behalf of the entire people, I am grateful to you. I bow my head in the face of your loss and your courage and pray that days of light and grace, of comfort and even joy will come upon you. We draw so much faith and hope from you. 2 months before Yishai Slutsky fell, his first daughter was born, and her name Shachar Be'eri. Now the name of the little baby girl has taken on a new meaning. A new dawn will rise over Kibbutz Be'eri and all the surrounding communities, said Rabbi Shmuel Slutsky, the father of Yishai and Noam, who is here with us today. And beside the grave of his beloved sons on Mount Herzog was added, the name Shachar Be'eri expresses the hope that we will not be destroyed and ruined. People of Israel, my sisters and brothers, even today, deep within the national mourning, I believe with all my heart, a new dawn will rise over all of Israel. By their merit, for their sake, and for ours, may the memory of the fallen of the Israel Defense Forces and victims of enemy hostility against us be preserved in the heart of our nation for generations to come. Really an incredible speech. And any thoughts, comments, questions that anybody has? Bob?
I don't think we can add to it.
No.
It's
Yeah, it's really amazing. It's just incredible to me when leaders of Israel speak like that, especially in light of what's going on in the heat of war and existential threat to Israel's survival. To speak like this is really, really quite something. And I thought very important for us to hear it and to appreciate it. So have a good rest of the day, everyone. May the fallen of Israel be their memory be a source of blessing and comfort to all the Jewish people.